Now, let's take you around East Africa and tell you some of the big stories that came from there this week. We have journalist Daron Bartlett joining us for that. Good morning. Thanks for joining us, Daron.
Good morning, Osa and Olivia. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Good morning. Good to see you. Let's start, in the DRC. The Democratic Republic of Congo has given a reaction to the statement made by President Paul Kagame of Rwanda regarding the eviction of Congolese refugees. Can you quickly share with us what the DRC has said and what implications it may have for Kigali, considering, of course, that these statements made violate the rights of refugees as laid out in the 1951 Convention relating to the status of refugees and its 1967 protocol under international law?
Well, first to start with, when Paul Kagame was addressing his parliament, yes, he could have made a statement, but when you go back and watch all the 20 minutes, about 28 minutes to 30 minutes of his speech, and it was specifically addressing the issue of the relationship between Rwanda and Congo. He said that the statement he made was actually addressing the international community that keep on bringing up the statement and blaming Rwanda for being responsible for the unsettlement or conflicts that are happening in Congo. And he said that if those people think, and by those he meant the international community, because I think it was very important to pick out context here, is that the people who think that Rwanda is responsible for the destabilization in Congo should then come and be responsible for the same burden that Rwanda is facing of refugees that are coming from Congo. So by taking them away and take them wherever they feel that they can take them and at the place that they will be safe. He also gives a background on what Rwanda has tried to do for the about 80,000 to 100,000 refugees in Congo. And he says that he even tried to offer them citizenship, and they felt like they don't want to have citizenship, they just want to go back to Congo. So he felt like if people blame Rwanda for such a problem, then they should take them away because he's facing the burden of housing these refugees, and then saying that he's the one responsible for actually the refugee crisis in Congo and also the problems that are happening in Congo in terms of war. And he goes ahead and says that, why is it M23? Because if they say that if M23 is the problem, how about the rest of the rebel groups and also armed groups in Congo, which are more than 100, by the way, more than 100 groups? Why M23? Why is it that tying M23 to Congo? Okay, if we remove M23 out of the picture, does that mean that Eastern Congo gets stabilized? Well, that is a question that people can answer some time to come. Maybe the International Committee or Congo or Rwanda can answer. But Congo comes out and says that the statements made by Kagame, first of all, using refugees, Congolese refugees or their brothers in Congo as pawns, as political pawns, and trying to use them against Congo itself, saying that Congo is causing war, killing their own people, and that all this refugee crisis, first of all, according to Congo, were started by Rwanda itself when they had the genocide and the refugees were welcomed in Congo. But now that there's the destabilization in Congo, the same refugees are moving back to Rwanda, and that every refugee has a right to go to any country of their choice that they want to go to, and they should never be sent back to a country where they came from, where they feel unsafe for whatever reasons that they left that country, and they should be stated very clear. So when I look at the footage that I watched about 3 times just to find what exactly Kagame was saying versus the response from the DRC Congo, I feel like there was just a misunderstanding of because one, who is Kagame addressing in this video, and two, what did he say exactly? Was something picked out without context? Maybe. And what does Congo respond to? They respond to the statements that were made, or probably what they had. I wish you could have an opportunity to get the footage from the Roundup Broadcasting Service or TV and watch it, where he says that this address goes to the international community who think that Rwanda is responsible for this problem. And if they believe that Rwanda is responsible for this problem, and Rwanda has an obligation, just like any other country that subscribes to these protocols, should just come and pick them.
All right, now let's take the conversation, away from there. I'm hoping that we can maybe revisit that conversation some other time in the near future with that video or some positive feedback. But let's take the conversation to Uganda, where we have heard that the amendment of the Computer Misuse Act recently signed by President Yoweri Museveni was overturned by the Constitutional Court. Tell us what the reasoning was behind the decision of the 5 judges.
All right, the judges felt like the Section 25 of the Computer Misuse Act is inconsistent with the Article 29 of the Constitution of Uganda, which clearly talks about the freedoms of individuals in Uganda, especially individuals of speech, expression, and in terms of opinions and all that goes under the same article. But when you look at the section 25 of the Computer Misuse Act, which talks about anybody who attempts to abuse someone's privacy or communicate continuously using digital communication systems to, attack anybody or abuse anybody in their privacy or things like that, faces 1 year imprisonment and another fine that could come both of them. So what happens here is that they find it very inconsistent because, again, it limits people to express their opinions in their wisdom. They feel like it's also not very clear, that it feels it's very ambiguous, that it does not also actually define what offensive communication is in this article. And because it's there, it lies just, it can catch any fish it comes across, young or old, mature or not. That's where the Constitutional Court finds a problem with, that this law, in any law that is made in Uganda, one must be very clear and must define what the offenses are, if any offense has been committed. Something that this section, according to their wisdom, is not clear. And that's why they quashed it.
Oh, seems very draconian. And I'm hoping, that there would be better understanding and, maybe it could even be fought. But of course, how have the citizens and activists welcomed the decision, and do we expect, the government to appeal?
The Attorney General has not spoken about the quashing of the article, but the citizens have been very excited about this decision that has been made, not forgetting that there are already some people who were arrested under that law before. Stella Nyanzi, who is in exile, Kakwenza, who is also in exile. Both of them are now living in Germany because of the communications that they made on social media platforms. So they feel like they can now comfortably express their dissatisfaction in case there is any about anything that the government has done, because they feel like this law was coined to protect government from people, what people say. If people are going to come out and say the government is not doing this, or he's a bad leader, or he's whatever they call him to be, if you read the poems that were made by Stella Nyanzi and Kakwenza against the first family, and they were arrested for that, for offensive communication, they now feel like we have an opportunity to express our opinions, as Article 29 says, that I can now come out and tell the president that this is wrong without fear of anything that could happen to them.
There seems to be like
so they're happy about it.
Just quickly, there seems to be like a build-up of more social media or anti-social media laws, or laws that would stifle free speech on social media across many African countries. I'm not sure if African leaders have not been able to understand how they can find a way around controlling speech on social media. That's what they're playing around with these laws.
Also, it's very interesting when you say that, and I would say that I think Uganda was the spearhead of controlling social media in Africa here. I remember in the elections, the elections of 2016, where they blocked social media and you couldn't use social media for anything. It happened, and it happened again in the past elections. And I saw other countries picking it up. Tanzania picked it up, Zimbabwe picked it up, and I've seen it now. Egypt picking it up. Tunisia has done so. I hope Nigeria did so. I remember sometime when Twitter had an issue with the government of Nigeria, but eventually it was opened here, where they banned Facebook. We cannot use Facebook in Uganda unless you're using VPN. And the same reasons why it was put off, it's because people were probably putting up content that was not that they felt was harmful to the society, but also Facebook, removing government accounts that they believed were being used to spread false information about politics or elections that was happening. And that issue till today has never been resolved between Facebook and Uganda. So yeah, it's one of those things that you wake up in the morning, especially towards elections or after immediately elections, and you don't have social media to use in countries like Uganda.
I mean, it's a bit of a shock every time we hear conversations like this. Ethiopia is not exempt from the conversation as well. When we start to look at some of these laws and how governments are trying to work their way around social media and the rights of the people. But we will still keep talking about this, and we thank you, Daron Bartlett, for joining us this morning. Do have a great week. See you again next week, Friday, with more stories around the East African side of the continent.
Have a lovely day too.
All right.